Hey guys, this is Josh with Homesteading Family, and today I want to talk to you about pantry shelving. Now, a lot of you guys have been watching our pantry chat. We've been starting to do a weekly session where we're sitting here in the pantry and talking about different homesteading topics and skills, and we've gotten a lot of questions about these pantry shelves and requests for drawings and how do I build those and just more information. So I wanted to take some time today and tell you about how I built these and why. Now, I could give you a drawing, I could sketch something up and give you measurements and dimensions, but the reality is that what I'm going to draw, what I'm going to design is going to work for me. It's not going to work for you in your home and in your spot. We're all different. We've got different space. We're storing different things. So instead, the approach I'm going to take is I'm going to tell you about how I built these, the way I built them, and just some basic things to think about that can get you going if you want to build a custom set of pantry shelves for you in your home for the kind of jars and foods that you're storing. Okay, so there's three things to think about. Where are you going to put them? Okay, how you're going to design it, and how to build it, what materials to use, whatnot like that. So first of all, let's talk about where. Any old space might be good, but there's a few things that you need to try to do for the quality of whatever you're storing, especially in glass jars. So you want a temperature stable area. You don't want your food storage, your pantry shelves, to go into a place that has a lot of temperature fluctuation. Now, just about anywhere in the home is going to have some temperature fluctuation, but there are areas that are maybe not on the southern wall, maybe in the basement. That's where we are here. We're in the basement of our house. We've had other areas in the past where maybe it was just back behind the kitchen. Of course, that's nice. Location's great if you can get it close to the kitchen. But more importantly, that you've got a temperature stable area without a lot of fluctuation. If you're getting a lot of extremes from heat to cold, like in an uninsulated garage or in a shed, you're asking for trouble, and mostly you're looking to lose the seal on your food. You've worked real hard to put this food up, and large temperature swings are going to cause those seals to go bad and hence your food to go bad. So you want it as temperature stable as you can when you're looking for an area to build your pantry shelving. You also want preferably a dark spot, okay, a darker place without a lot of natural sunlight. Natural sunlight also is going to deteriorate your foods, especially if they're shining right on it. Now, you've seen in some of our videos, there's often pantry shelves in the kitchen and food storage there. That's usually food that we're using more regularly, not long term, and you've got to work with what you've got. So if you don't have a spot that's dark and temperature stable and you need to get it in the kitchen or build a space where there's more light, that's okay. Just darker is better. Its own room is best if it can, and keep it out of direct sunlight. Those are really your key things. Fairly cool temperatures, not too warm all the time, stable, and no direct sunlight. Darker is better if you can make it its own room. Okay, so next is design, and this is really the key to what makes these pantry shelves work. Okay, there's lots of ways to build them. I'll talk about what I did here in a few minutes, but it's really the design, and it's really building your own, what's going to allow you to do the most with what you have. If you've ever gone to Costco or Home Depot and looked at the shelving or bought shelving, we've got plenty of it around here. It's great, it's sturdy, but it does not maximize space storage. Those shelves that you're going to get in the box are not going to allow you to maximize the different size jars that you're storing, and frankly, most of them are a waste of space. A lot of the shelves are a foot tall, taller. It just doesn't work. You've got all kinds of jars. We've got pint jars here that are about 5 inches tall. Your quart jars are about 6.5 inches tall. Then you've got half-gallon jars. They're 9.5 inches tall. On to gallon jars, which are 10 inches, and even if you're starting to store more, we have down at the bottom, you can't see them here, but there are 5-gallon buckets. That's all the different things we're storing besides some of the little half pints and whatnot. So store-bought shelves just don't cut it. They really, really waste space. And that's what makes these so cool, and is the key to the whole thing right here, is I've designed these shelves for each of the different sizes of jars that we're going to use. You can see here I've got quart jars, okay? And just to measure it out for you, I've got 8 inches for a 6.5 quart jar. I could have made that a little tighter even. I've got a lot of room there. I wanted room to, for Carolyn, anybody that's pulling out of here to be able to pull them out easily. But we could even tuck that down a little bit. So I did shelves for quart-sized jars, for half-gallon jars. Some of the shelves down lower here are for 1-gallon jars, and then down at the bottom are for 5-gallon buckets, or 1, 2, 3 gallon. They'll fit those too, but I sized them for 5-gallon buckets. And here's the key. I don't know what your family's like. I don't know what you're preserving, what you're putting up. And we do a lot of quarts, a lot of half gallons. Half gallons also fit these Grolsch bottles where we do cider and mead and different beverages. And so we need bigger shelves. You might be doing a lot more quarts, a lot more pints. And so you might want to build those shelves, more shelves at those sizes that fit. So, I mean, that's really what makes these things so cool. It's just that they're designed to hold what we need. And so we're maximizing this space. If I had just bought a Costco, Home Depot set of shelves, Walmart, whatever, I'm going to have giant gaps. I'm going to have 12 inches, 15 inches for my 1-gallon jars, and I don't need that. That's not helpful to us, and most of us are space limited. We want to get as much packed into a space as we can. So what I would do if I was you and I was sitting down to design these shelves, I would have some basics. I would have some spots for 5-gallon jars. If you're homesteading, if you're preserving your own food, and I'm sorry, 5-gallon buckets, not jars. But if you're buying anything in bulk, you're going to need some space for those 5-gallon buckets. So the bottom shelf is usually 16 inches. I have 16 inches of space that can handle larger items like the 5-gallon buckets. Sometimes bags of grain go down there, larger items, and then I work my way up as we go. And so the next shelf up is 11 inches to hold the 1-gallon jars. And then we're going to come up to the half-gallon jars, which are 10 inches. And that's leaving us a little bit of room. You can say I don't have a lot of room here, so 10 inches is going to work really well for those. Then the rest of these are for quart jars, even though we've got different sizes. Quarts, even though you see a lot of pints and other stuff here, quart jars, because of the size of our family, is predominantly what we use when we're fully stocked out. And you can see, I could have even done a little better here, okay? I don't know if you can see that. I guess it's not up close enough, but that's 8 inches. I could have gotten away with 7 inches. I think, though, when I was laying it out, it would not have gotten me another shelf overall. So you're trying to meet those, but you're also working with the height that you have. And so you've got to divide the space up to work with whether you've got 6 feet, 8 feet. Maybe you're just doing some pantry shelves above a countertop. And so you're just doing a couple rows of quart jars and a row of half-gallon jars. Or maybe it's quarts and pints. Again, that's what's so beneficial and great about these shelves, is you're making them just fit what you're going to store. And that's why I can't do you drawing. I mean, I could, but it's not going to fit your space. You've got to decide what am I using, what am I going to store the most of, and how do I make that work. So that's the basic design. The other side of it is how deep do you make it? And again, you want to get as much storage in a space as you can, right? So these are 16-inch deep. I have some back here that are 2 feet deep. That's about as deep as I would go, partially because of reach, partially because of material usage, which I'll talk about in a few minutes as far as maximizing your materials. And, all the way down to 8 inches or so you can get a couple quarts is probably about as narrow as you want to go on some upper shelves, or We had a pretty narrow pantry once, and I think about 8 was as deep as I could go and still have access in there. They were floor to ceiling, but it was a real narrow closet type space. So again, you've got to make the determination what works for you and lay it out and sketch it out. I'm kind of an old school guy. I sketch on paper. I've got some drafting skills, so I do it all by hand. There's a lot of applications, right, on the phone, on your computer, where you can draw this out and create for yourself very easily a schematic or a drawing with which to produce your plans for building these pantry shelves and customizing them to your situation. Okay, so the last part to this is building them and the materials that you're going to use. Now, I'm not covering carpentry skills here, and so you're going to have to pick that up on your own. But I will tell you how I built these and some ways to make efficient use of your materials. So what I built these out of is just 3/4 ACX plywood. The lowest grade you want to use is a CDX plywood. That's kind of your roughest plywood, but it rarely is it very flat. It's a lower grade for framing houses, and it's the cheapest, but it's rougher. It's usually got more splinters. There's knot holes that are not filled in, and so it'll work for you. And if you need to save a few bucks, that's great. Use a CDX. This is ACX. That's a step up. It's often a lot flatter. It's got one smooth side, and it's still kind of a rougher plywood. It's not a finished plywood, but works great for these. I wanted heavy duty. I was not worried about these looking perfect. I just wanted them heavy duty so they can hold. We can pack these things full and they can hold it. So and 3/4 inch. I wouldn't go less than 3/4 inch unless you're doing 8-inch shelves. Then you might go down to 1/2 inch. But again, you get into the 1/2 inch plywood, it's often not flat and it's hard to work with. It's just hard to put together. So a 3/4 ACX is kind of the sweet spot of not too expensive, but still getting a plywood if you're going to work with plywood. But that for something this size and scale, it's easier than just working with boards. That ACX really gets it well, okay? 2-inch screws to put it together, or staples if you've got a 1/2 inch crown stapler and an air compressor, a pneumatic gun. That's great. I'm in the construction business, so I've got those tools. You might not. Cordless drill and 2-inch screws are great as well to put something together like this. Wood glue. You don't have to use wood glue, but I would wood glue all the joints. Again, I want this thing stout. I am putting a lot of weight on it. So I'm going to glue everything together. I'm going to screw it, honestly, every couple inches. It's overkill, but I'd rather over-engineer it and make sure that this is just rock solid steady, okay? And then for the face frames, these are just 1x2s. I actually milled these myself, but what you're going to be able to get in the store is 1x2 pine. That's not very expensive, and you can rip it in half if you want to make this a little bit narrower. You really do want a face frame on it for a couple of reasons. One, depending on how wide you're going to go, and I went 4 foot wide to maximize my materials here because I had the space for it. But depending on how wide you're going to go, you need some support in the middle. I would not go larger than about 2 feet, especially with 16 inches deep or 2 foot deep. I wouldn't go farther than about 2 feet with some support. So it's screwed and glued together on the back, but I needed this vertical in here to hold it together, again, because of the weight. And don't underestimate it. You're better to overbuild it than underbuild it and lose all your hard-earned goods because that thing fails on you. So you need that support every 2 feet. This is just 1 inch here. Again, you can go with a 1x2, which is going to be 3/4 thick by 1.5 inches thick, and that's great. You can just take that and sand it and put it together, but make sure you have that support every 2 feet. Now, what I did for material usage and the way I designed these was to make the maximum use of the material, especially the plywood, because it is not inexpensive, but again, I wanted a structure that was really, really solid. And these were built to move because when I built them, we were in a place we were leasing. We'd hoped to buy it. We knew we might not, so I knew I might have to move these. And I had a significant amount of time invested in them, so they're solid plywood back, solid plywood sides, and shelves. And let's see, Covered that 3/4 inch thick. They are glued and screwed or stapled together. They're supported in the middle. That's part of your face frame. The other thing is plywood just gets real rough edges and you're reaching in and out of here all the time. And so the face frame on here, just a 1x2 face frame or close to it, is going to give you that support in the middle. And it's just going to give you a little bit nicer surface. You can round the edges with some sandpaper or a router if you've got one. Again, these are nailed and glued on. These are just finished nailed. You could screw them if you don't have pneumatic tools. You can absolutely screw these. They've got a little bit of lip on them. Now, if you're in, like we're from California originally, if I had built these and I was living in California, I would have put the lip up, okay? And I would have made room to pick my jars up and out. I'm not worried about that here, but if you are in an earthquake prone area, or anything that's going to cause some instability, run that up and give yourself a little bit of lip. Maybe if you've just got a lot of kids or they're in a space where people are close to them, that's a good idea, really. I wasn't too worried about it, but that extra lip here so these don't just slide off or get pulled off accidentally is a great idea. Man, I think that's the gist of it. So you can build whatever you want yourself, and you're going to catch in a lot of our videos that, yeah, we can give you a recipe, yeah, we could give you a drawing and say do it this way. The reality is your situation, my situation, it's all different, and to make something work well for us, we've got to fit it to our situation, right? So you don't need to go buy Home Depot. You don't need to go buy Costco, and you don't need a ton of skills. If you've got a table saw, that's great. You can do this with a skill saw, maybe a little bit of practicing to get you cut straight, but you can do this with a cordless skill saw if you needed to, and a cordless drill, some glue and some screws. You can do that. Watch a few other videos. I'm sure there's guys out there that are doing just carpentry tutorials, and you can build just a bomb-proof, really cool, stable shelf that is made to fit just for you in your space to hold just whatever it is that you're going to be preserving and putting up. And one last thing, you can finish this. I did not finish these. Needed to get them to work. It's not a wet area. There's not a lot. I mean, it's generally full jars. So I did not finish it. It certainly is going to be a little bit nicer if you put a stain or some sort of sealer on it, but you don't have to. So that's it, guys. I hope that this helps you out and gives you just some good pointers, some good ideas how to build some awesome looking and awesome functioning shelves for your homestead that is really going to help you maximize your space and store everything that you need to. All right, guys, that's it. I hope that this has helped you out and that you can now go and design your own shelves. And guys, especially, your wives are going to love this. Get out there. It's a great project for the winter time, and they are just going to be stoked when you build them some of these bomb-proof shelves. Okay, see you soon.